This is Gerald. Gerald is a cat. Gerald works hard. Gerald earns money. Gerald saves money. Gerald does everything right. And every single year, without fail, Gerald gets a little bit poorer. Not because he spends more, not because he earns less. His salary is exactly the same. His savings account still has the same number in it. Nothing has changed. Except everything costs more. Gerald's rent went up. Gerald's groceries went up. Gerald's electricity bill went up. Gerald's coffee, the one small luxury Gerald allows himself, went up. Gerald did not vote for this. Nobody asked Gerald. And yet, every year, a small, invisible hand reaches into Gerald's wallet and takes something out. No invoice, no election, no law with Gerald's name on it. This is called inflation, and it is the oldest tax in the world.
Let's talk about what money actually is. Money is not valuable because it is pretty. It is not valuable because a government says so. Money is valuable because of what it can buy. If there are 100 coins in the world and 100 loaves of bread, each coin buys one loaf of bread. Simple. Now imagine a cat in a government building prints 50 more coins overnight and quietly drops them into the economy. Now there are 150 coins, but there are still only 100 loaves of bread. The bread did not multiply. The bread does not care about the new coins. The bread just notices that more cats have more coins and adjusts accordingly. Now each loaf costs 1.5 coins. Gerald still has his original coins. Gerald earned them honestly. But Gerald can now buy less bread than he could yesterday. His coins are worth less. His savings are worth less. His salary buys less. The cat in the government building printed wealth for itself. Gerald paid for it. Gerald still does not know this happened. This is the mechanism. More money, same stuff, higher prices. The value did not disappear. It just moved from the people who held money to the people who created money. Quietly, legally, without a single vote being cast. Economists call this the inflation tax. They say it quietly, mostly to each other, at conferences Gerald was not invited to.
This is not a new trick. The Roman Empire figured it out almost 2,000 years ago. Roman coins were made of silver, real silver, heavy, valuable. A soldier got paid in silver. A merchant trusted silver. Then the empire started running out of money. Wars are expensive. Roads are expensive. Keeping an empire together is extremely expensive. So the emperors did something clever. They melted down the coins. They mixed in cheaper metals, copper, tin, whatever was available. Then they minted new coins that looked the same but contained less silver. They called them the same thing. They said they were worth the same thing, but they were not the same thing. Over 200 years, the silver content of a Roman coin went from nearly 100% to less than 5%. Prices across the empire went up. Soldiers demanded higher wages because their wages bought less. Merchants stopped trusting the coins. Trade slowed down. The economy started to fracture. The empire did not collapse only because of this, but this was one of the knives in its back. And the important part is this. No Roman citizen voted to have their coins quietly hollowed out. No referendum was held. No senator stood up and said, "We are going to make your savings worth less." It just happened. Gradually, then all at once. Inflation has been doing this to cats since before Gerald's grandfather was born.
Now let us get to the part that economists find slightly embarrassing to explain. Governments love inflation. Not too much of it, but a little. A steady, controlled, predictable amount. Here is why. Governments borrow enormous amounts of money. Every major country on Earth carries debt measured in the trillions. They borrow from banks, from other countries, from their own citizens who buy government bonds. And they have to pay that debt back. But here is the beautiful, terrible trick. If a government borrowed 1 million coins 10 years ago, it still owes 1 million coins today. The number does not change. But if inflation has been running at a few percent every year for those 10 years, those 1 million coins are worth significantly less than they were when the government borrowed them. The government pays back the loan in full, every coin accounted for, completely legal, completely deliberate. But the lender gets back money that buys less than the money they lent. They have been quietly robbed, and the government has quietly erased part of its debt without cutting spending, raising official taxes, or asking anyone for permission. This is a cat in a suit handing you back your umbrella after it has been raining for a year. Technically your umbrella, technically returned, but something is different and you cannot quite explain what. The purchasing power is gone. It went into the money supply. It paid for things you did not get to vote on. And the transaction is now complete.
Wait, are you saying the government prints money to pay off its own debts, and I end up paying for it through higher prices? We prefer to call it monetary policy. But I did not agree to this. You live here, don't you? Fantastic. Thank you for your contribution. Now, let us look at what happens when this tool gets used irresponsibly. Germany. 1921 to 1923. The First World War ended, and Germany lost. The treaty that followed demanded Germany pay enormous reparations to the winning countries. Billions of marks. Money Germany did not have. So Germany printed it. At first, inflation was inconvenient. Prices went up. People complained. Then prices went up faster. By 1922, inflation was moving so quickly that workers were being paid twice a day so they could spend their wages before the money lost value by afternoon. By late 1923, $1 was worth 4 trillion German marks. A wheelbarrow of cash could not buy a loaf of bread. People burned banknotes for heat because the banknotes were worth less than the firewood they would have bought. Entire lifetimes of savings, gone. Businesses that had survived for generations, gone. The middle class, which had saved carefully and done everything right, was destroyed. This is what happens when the tool stops being a tool and becomes a solution. Gerald would not have survived 1923.
Zimbabwe, 2008. A different country, a different century. The same mistake. The Zimbabwean government needed money. The Zimbabwean government printed money. Inflation hit 230 million% in a single year. Prices doubled every 24 hours. The central bank issued a $100 trillion note. A single bill. 100 trillion. It was not enough to buy a bus ticket. People stopped using Zimbabwean dollars entirely. They switched to foreign currencies. The government had printed its own money into worthlessness. When a currency dies, it does not announce itself. It just becomes paper. And here is the thing that is easy to miss in both of these stories. The people who suffered were not irresponsible. They were not gamblers. They were not speculators who made bad bets. They were Gerald. They worked. They saved. They trusted the system. And the system quietly used their savings as raw material.
Gerald still has his coffee. The price went up again this morning. Gerald noticed. Gerald sighed. Gerald paid. He did not understand why. He assumed it was the coffee shop. He assumed it was supply chains. He assumed someone somewhere made a decision that affected the price of his one small luxury. He was right about the last part. Someone did make a decision. They just did not make it in a coffee shop. Inflation is not an accident. It is not bad luck. It is not a mystery force that economists are perpetually surprised by. It is a mechanism.
it has operators, it has beneficiaries, and it has people who pay for it without ever being asked.
Here is the framework. Inflation transfers purchasing power from people who hold money to people who issue money. If you save, you lose. If you borrow, you win. If you are the one printing, you win most. This is why financial advisors tell you not to hold cash long term. Not because cash is bad, but because cash is the thing inflation eats first. Assets go up in price during inflation because people move money out of cash and into things. Houses, stocks, gold. Anything that is not sitting in an account shrinking. The cats who own things get richer in inflationary periods. The cats who hold savings get poorer. Gerald holds savings. Gerald has always held savings. Gerald was never told this part. The irony is that the solution to inflation, buying assets, owning things, holding as little cash as possible, is only accessible to the cats who already have enough money to do it. The cats with nothing to invest hold cash. Cash inflates away. The gap between them and the asset-owning cats grows. This is not a side effect. This is the geometry of the system.
Inflation is the only tax that requires no legislation, no vote, no debate, and no name on a ballot. It is collected quietly, continuously, and completely legally. Every government in history has used it. Every government in history has called it something else. Monetary stimulus, quantitative easing, liquidity injection, money printer go burr. The name changes. The mechanism does not. Gerald is still paying for it. Gerald will pay for it next year, too. At least now he knows why.